Hello, everyone, and welcome to what will be the final Cherishable interview you see from myself. We have a very special guest, my I don't know how to actually put this, my co-host of
There
this
we go.
division, and one you'll see a lot of with this Cherish Ball logo in the bottom middle of the screen. You all know him, you all love him. How are you doing, Solanor, aka Chad?
There it is. I'm good, Spades, man. This is kind of surreal. This is my first time like seeing your face, so it's like kind of funny. Like we got in the first interview we got the Spades face reveal, and that
Mm-hmm.
was like kind of mind blowing to me. But
I
yeah,
am a real person, believe it or not.
whoa, insane. I don't know if I do believe it, even with this face that the AI gave you. It's almost believable,
Just
huh?
fake, yeah.
But yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. It's really cool that or I mean, I'm not going to take credit for it. You really spearheaded this division and these ideas with regards to like the Cherish Ball stuff in general, and I think it's a really cool way to honor the SCDA's deep history when it comes to draft league and
Mm-hmm.
Sword and Shield, and this is just like the best way to do that. We get the champions division after all this time. Everyone has been earning their their cherish balls,
Mm-hmm.
and now it actually like gets to pay off in some way. We have the cherish ball champions division. It's just like very cool. It feels very elite and VIP, which is like a really neat thing to be a part of, and it's really awesome that you have like organized such a thing.
I'm glad that, one, people reminded me of this, and two, how much just support I got from everybody, including yourself, because once you heard about this, you were like, all right, let's go. So that's awesome that, like, we were basically just on board, and then we were in contact about ideas for content, because this is gold for that. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to making this. The goal is for the most engaging division, like it for draft ever. So
Mhm.
I think it'll be a very cool way to do that. And these interviews have been great. You get to experience it. Haha.
Yeah, I get to like I don't know, a little spoiler here. We're recording this interview before I do any of my interviews with the people that I'll be interviewing, so I actually get to be interviewed before
He just wants to make
half
sure
of
that
you
his
all.
is better than mine. That's
I've
you.
That's what I've been doing. I've gone in and I've studied your tape. I've learned how to do it, and now my
Damn.
interviews will be godlike.
My tape
But
is all exposed. No,
you,
it's all
you
good. All right.
you laid all the cards out on the table far too soon.
See, you got yourself into a rabbit hole. I have some big cards here. So you're saying about laying cards out.
What the hell do you have those for, man?
They were $3.
Oh, that's so
So,
worth it.
all right. So
That's
big
so
card.
worth
So like anything with cards now, I'm referencing the big cards 'cause they're funny. All right,
Those are
let's.
weapons.
I think the smaller ones are actually more of a weapons because like, so how you would like kill somebody or hurt somebody is by throwing them. So like you
Yeah.
throw them like this.
Yeah.
Like I think it'd be much easier and much sharper with these smaller ones.
Oh yeah. I guess that's fair. It's probably way easier to like throw them
Mm-hmm.
fast.
Yeah.
Um,
Cut things. I've seen somebody break glass with a playing card.
I don't want to know.
That's actually a really cool video. I'll show you later. All right, we got an
All right,
interview to partake on. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah,
All
this is
right. You know the first question all too well. Introduce yourself. Who you are, where you're from, and what you do for the living.
okay. Well, my name is well, I guess I go by Solanor on Twitch. You Most of the people who are watching this video should like know. You should have seen my content at this point. I make Twitch content of like
If
draft league
not, there'll
stuff.
be a link in the video of this. Check it out, please.
Appreciate that, boy. Um, but yeah, we have that's me. I'm Solanor, aka Chad, as he said at the beginning. And I'm from Virginia. I live in Virginia, near the coast. But right now I'm in Hawaii, and I have been in Hawaii for the last 2 months now, where I've been doing a bunch of really cool shit. And we'll probably flex that off at some point to the good people everywhere. But yeah, it's Hawaii has been good. I'm going back to Virginia very soon, where I will be back on the content train. And as of right now, I'm a full-time student, and I also lifeguard to make money. And I also get money off of Twitch thanks to my wonderful supporters who give me money. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. um, but yeah, full time student studying marine biology and hoping to get into the field there somewhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
pretty cool guy.
yeah.
So
Marine biology is pretty sweet. Do you
it
have any
is.
plans, I guess, for what you want to do with said degree? Like what you want to get into?
I think that a job that works with conservation of some sort, like of marine wildlife. If I could work
Mm-hmm.
at like even something like a habitat, like a wildlife habitat conservation, or just like wildlife rehabilitation, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those could be really cool jobs. And something that involves like scuba diving. I actually recently in Hawaii just got scuba certified,
Ooh, nice.
which was kind of fucking cool.
So wait, how do you
Very
get certified? Like,
so yeah, you have to like take an online course, and basically the online course is just like, all right, so these are all of the things you will need to learn how to use, and all of the skills you will need to practice when you like work with an instructor. And so you have to like pass that course, and then you go out and you work with an instructor. You go scuba diving with an instructor anywhere from like 4 to 5 times. Just like learning, he'll have or the instructor, they'll have you practice like all sorts of different skills with regards to scuba stuff. And it's one of those things, you go out there, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the first like day, I like had some problems. When you go underwater, you get that pressure on your ears, and
mm-hmm.
that shit kind of hurts a little bit if you're not ready for it. And it really caught me off guard the first day. Like, I went down deep and my ears hurt real bad.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, you get used to it, and it's just so cool down there. Like, studying and observing marine wildlife and its natural habitat. That's just as cool as it gets.
Mm-hmm. That's all you. That's
Um,
what you see in all the picture books and stuff. It's like you get to see it with your eyes now instead of just on a piece of paper, which is really
exactly.
neat
Or
and
like,
cool.
on pixels on a screen or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You get to experience the real thing, which was really cool. I am super grateful for the fact that we got scuba certified, and it was honestly just a really really incredible addition to my experience here in Hawaii. But yeah, if I could find a job with where like scuba diving is an important part of that like field of work, that would be a really
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling thing for me, I would think.
Yeah, that's awesome. All
Yeah, I
right,
appreciate that.
let's go ahead and move on to the Pokemon related questions now. As much as we
All
want to
right,
talk about the other stuff,
the real stuff.
yeah, the real stuff. All right. So, how did you get into Pokemon in general slash competitive?
Pokemon in general. So I've been playing Pokemon ever since I was like kind of a little kid. So my very good friend and I, his name is Marshall, but he's not really that important. We were hanging out one day. We went to a garage sale with his mom. It was like a yard sale Saturday. So you just like drive around, find yard sales around the neighborhood, um, the little town that I grew up in. And at one of the yard sales, we found two copies of Pokemon games. One was Pokemon Fire Red, and the other one was Pokemon Leaf Green, and it was for like $2 each. And so we asked his mom to buy them for us, and he ended up keeping Pokemon Leaf Green, and I kept Pokemon Fire Red. And yeah, I just like that's where it all started. I really just loved playing Pokemon. It was something I really enjoyed doing. It's probably my favorite video game to play, and even to this day, kind of remains that way. But played all the games. Then once it transitioned to being on the 3DS, I kind of fell off. I didn't buy a 3DS, so I couldn't play like X, Y, and didn't play for like probably I don't know how long the gap was between X and Y and Sword and Shield, but I just didn't play for that extended period of time. And it really came full circle because Sword and Shield came out, and I was like, okay, I'll get back into it. It should be fun to see like all the new Pokemon I've missed and stuff, and catch up. I discovered there was a new type, which I thought was really cool, the fairy typing. And so
You
I had
learned
to
the hard way, I'm guessing, or did
I
you
had I
figure it
had to
out?
learn that one. Yeah, I had to learn that one. Um I actually kept up with the Pokemon anime at that point, and so I was like, okay, like there's a new type, and then there's like a whole episode. It's like, oh yeah, fairy types, they don't get affected by dragons, and I was like, that's probably a good thing that they added this type because dragon was kind of crazy
Mm-hmm.
at that point. But yeah, full circle. I watched a Wolfie VGC video, and it was like a tournament that he hosted with a bunch of Super Smash Bros. Players that were playing like competitive
Mm-hmm.
VGC, and because I was really into like the Super Smash Bros. Scene at that point, and watching that like video reminded me, oh, like VGC looks like a lot of fun. Like maybe I should just get into it. And so I kind of just taught myself how to play. I watched some videos and kind of got a sense of like what Pokemon could do what and like what was good. And I started playing, like building my own teams and playing in series like 3 of Sword and Shield. And the very first team I built was a Shell Smash Blastoise team with Togekiss for redirection. I thought that was just like the most broken thing ever. Like you're giving this Pokemon +2 special attack and +2 speed, and he gets Water Spout, so I can just like fucking redirect all the moves away and just start clicking Water Spout on fools.
Mm.
um, but yeah, that was like how I got into it, and then how I got into like playing competitive again. And I got Dylan G, who's like one of my best friends, and maybe you guys have played against him, know of him. He's a pretty decent player himself, and we both got into it kind of together. And then I heard of the WBE, which was like the big
Mm-hmm.
VGC draft league that happened with like all the good Pokemon content creators, Wolf Glick, Cybertron, A Drive, all that shit. And that's how I discovered Draft League. Like Draft League was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked so long to find a Draft League. Like we couldn't find one because we just were stupid and we didn't like know where to look. Neither of us really knew how to navigate Discord like that. But eventually, Dylan on Showdown ran into a guy named Arc Gaming, and Arc used to be a member of the RPDL,
Mm-hmm.
and Dylan was using a team that we had for one of our little draft tournaments. And Arc was like, hey, you should join this draft league. And then Dylan got me into it. And then all of a sudden, Dylan and I were placed into RPDL Pearl Division, and the rest is kind of history there.
Well, we're
Uh,
gonna get to the Pearl part of that, but that's I didn't actually know that our gaming and like just a random showdown game got you to this moment.
yeah.
Damn.
It
I mean,
was
I
really
was
just like,
fully expected to swear like off at Wolfie saying he picked off another one, but the fact that it was a random showdown game against a random opponent, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it was just like a stroke of luck, man. Like,
Hmm.
it wasn't my game either. Like, it was Dylan
Yeah.
playing Showdown, testing his team, playing against Art Gaming, a guy who's like not even a part of our community anymore, but was like a part of it at that point. And it was just like, hey, he was just like, Ark was like, hey, your team is really cool. Like, why are you using this team? And Dylan was like, oh, it's for like a draft tournament. And Ark was like, really? Like, we have a draft league. I'll send you the Discord. And all of a sudden, Dylan just like was in a Discord, and that was that. And then they were
That's
like, oh, there's
awesome.
one more spot. Yeah, so that's really was just like a stroke of luck that it worked out that way.
Yeah. Well,
Because
what?
now here I am.
God, that's amazing. Just
Mm,
one showdown game. All right.
all it
Well,
took.
so that actually answers the next question, which was how you found RPDL in this case. That that's an interesting story there.
Yeah,
Wow.
you guys. You guys can thank Ark for that if you ever see him
Yeah,
again.
we'll have to mention Ark about that. That's really cool. See if he remembers. I'm curious if he remembers, although he probably won't remember to check Discord. So,
Probably not. Cool guy. Yeah,
all
cool
right.
guy.
So
Really,
you
really glad.
entered RPDL in the lowest skill division, I would say. For those that don't know, RPDL is what we call repeat ball in SCDA, kind of as just like a legacy format where we've kept it the same for years at this point, year and a half, something,
Mhm.
however long we've been part of this. And
Yeah.
yeah, we made the mistake to put Solanor here into the bottom division. Well, actually, I wasn't a part of that mod team. I was just kind of there.
You can blame Julian and Zach for that.
I don't know if Julian was part of the team at the time. I'm not
Uh,
sure.
I I believe he was because he was a part of like the initial power rankings that y'all did
Mm,
for that. So I assume he was a part of the mod
okay,
team.
gotcha.
But
Well, anyway, yeah. So it says three-time champion. Two of those were in that RPDL server, as you won
mhm.
back-to-back divisions, which was really cool. And then you took a little break from repeat, from whenever it became SCDA's format instead of just RPDL. And then
Mhm.
you decided you wanted to win another division, so you played this past season, and that's where the third one came from. So we can just go ahead.
Casual.
Yeah. So you're what we would call kind of a master of this format at most. We'll
I
go
would
over each of the teams, but before we do that, just your overall sense of this format. It's basically Series 11 VGC, which is one restricted, but that restricted can't Dynamax. Everything else can, and you get mythicals. So just, I guess, your opinions of the format, how you grew to love it, and how you grew to be just so consistent at this format.
Yeah, this format is godlike, man. Like this is easily probably the most fun way I've played draft. You know, I've done a bunch of different leagues at this point with like VDL and PDPL, and even other SCDA formats, which have all been fun in their own right. But to me, this is like the one that I enjoy the most because it really is like the biggest like knowledge check. It's like, okay, like, do you know how to get a good mythical and restricted pairing? Because that's really the heart and soul of this format. Like, is figuring out how to get a good restricted and a good mythical, and then build from there. You see it like pretty often. Teams are very the champion teams especially are like pretty reliant on either their mythical or their restricted. It's not super often you get a team that just does without both of them. So when I first like went into the RPDL, it was like, okay, like how can I get some of the best Pokemon available to me at the picks that I got, and yeah, you can really blame RPDL for keeping like I was like pick like 7, like just like a very awkward number, and Kyogre was still available at pick 7, and that was like kind of the beginning of the end for that format because like how do you not pick Kyogre? It's so broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kyogre is
and
quite a good one. We'll say that.
and so yeah, like I actually have played 4 seasons of repeat and um won 3 of them. I was a runner up in the one season that we did first going into the SCDA. We'll talk about that one when we get to that one. But yeah, with just like going in, like okay, like it's really important to pick mons that are like good and that work together. So I just like went with Kyogre and because I knew it was good, and then just tried to fill out everything else. Kyogre typically likes having access to Tailwind,
Yeah, we'll just
and
go ahead and highlight that team now while we're
yeah,
at
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this
That's
was your quote unquote first real
mhm.
draft uh, division league, and you came out on top with the Kyogre Marshadow pairing. So was these your first two picks? Was it Kyogre Marshadow?
Marshadow was my last pick.
Oh, what? How? Okay, that's.
so so I picked Kyogre, right, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, I'll get a mythical eventually because back in that format there were a bunch of like you guys would consider the bad restricteds to be
Mm-hmm.
mythicals. So like you have your, I believe it was the rule we applied for Premier last season, which was
Yeah.
everything under base stat total 600, uh, at or under 600, was considered a mythical. So it just like made a lot more options when it came to team building for that. And so, people were picking their mythicals, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna build the Kyogre team and like just get around to my mythical pick eventually. Like I wasn't as concerned with the mythical, knowing that I had Kyogre, um, and that was like the broken mon I wanted to work with. And so I like progressed all throughout the draft, and everyone had already like halfway through the draft, everyone had already picked their mythicals. So like every team had a mythical except for one, and the one team that already had its or that didn't have a mythical at that point already had a ghost type and already had a fighting type. And so I was like, oh, they're not gonna pick Marshadow, so I'm just gonna let this draft progress, and I'll just like save enough points to make sure I can get Marshadow because I can get him. I don't have to worry about picking him now because he like cannot be sniped. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
get the picks that I thought could be sniped before getting Marshadow, and that ended up really working out because I was able to get some incredibly valuable low tiers such as Turtonator and I think I don't know when I got Seismitoad. I may not have drafted Seismitoad, but I definitely got Turtonator and I got like Scraggy with my lower tier picks. Um, and so yeah, both of those mons really came around in a big way throughout the season. So yeah, being able to like save Marshadow for that last pick actually was a very important part of that draft,
Mm-hmm. And you
in
got
my
some
opinion.
really good, like, of the upper end mons, I would say. So, like, obviously my eye is going to be drawn towards the Metagross because,
Hmm.
obviously. But, like,
Yeah,
Thundy
obviously.
Eye and Whimsicott as, like, two other, like, just really solid high tiers is a solid foundation for your wheel pick Marshadow, or your end pick Marshadow, which, yeah,
So
worked out that way.
so yeah, Wims and Thundy ended up both being like really good picks because obviously Whimsicott's got that prankster with the tailwind, and Thunderous doesn't get the prankster tailwind, but Thunderous does get the advantage of being one of draft's most versatile mons, where you can use Defiant Dynamax sets, special
Mm-hmm.
Dynamax sets, or special support sets, and all three of them have their place throughout a regular season. And I used Thunderous a lot, but I would say the real carry of this team was definitely the Kyogre. Like the first 4 weeks of that season, I just ran Choice Scarf. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
run any other item. I just ran Choice Scarf, and I didn't like have to get creative with it because Choice Scarf Kyogre is just that broken. I would just like come
Mm-hmm.
in out the back with them next to my Dynamax Metagross or Seismitoad, and just click Water Spout, and it's like, oh well, there is nothing that my opponent can do about this.
The
So
button clicking continues. Good
this
strategy.
was a this was a super button clicky team. Um, but I would say the most memorable like member of this team for me, despite the fact that Kyogre was so good, is actually Turtonator. Funny enough, who is like one of those random picks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I made a couple of really important trades throughout the season, which were getting rid of um, a couple of mons that I wasn't using for Oranguru and Chandelure because of my Trick Room matchup. I wanted to improve it. But Oranguru ended up being a really good pick because I got to set Trick Room versus Zach, who had a mono fire team. And instead of beating Zach with Kyogre, which is what you'd think the mono fire team would do, I beat him with Dynamax Policy Turtonator, who aced him in both games. So that ended
Uh,
up being like the most memorable part of the
yeah,
season for
pour
me.
salt on his wound a little more. I was gonna
Considering that,
mention that matchup too because that's probably, well, for you at least, playing your first match or first league, you would probably had no clue what to do like against Mono Fire. I mean, this team I guess is tailored to beat that, but
uh,
it's still got to
no,
be an
this
experience. It's like you prepare this team to be solid across the board, and then you fight against a monotype team.
I actually fought against two monotype teams because
Oh,
there
there
were
was a
two of them.
poison one too. Oh, the poison one was
Yeah, and
really
so
bad though.
the mono poison team was the one that took a game off of me though because I tried using the Oranguru special ability. I don't remember what it is. It's the one that
Symbiosis.
yeah, it's the one that gives away the item. And so
Hmm.
I was trying to set up Trick Room with Oranguru and then Brutal Swing to proc Metagross Policy and give it an Iron Ball under Trick Room so that it can be slow and strong. But
That's awesome.
my my mono poison opponent just imprisoned my Trick Room and I just lost.
How rude.
Yeah,
That's a
so
shame.
very, very sad. But yeah, I actually went completely undefeated with this team. I finished the season like 11-0. I lost a game here or there, but I didn't lose any sets with this team. And ultimately, I was just like I was kind of on a mission to prove myself, because I felt like I had been a little slept on by being put in the lowest division. So I said, okay,
Just a little.
I'm just gonna win a little bit.
I mean,
Um,
to be fair to Zach and I think Julian, you had no other prior experience, so
mm,
I mean, if I was a mod for that, I would have probably did the same thing. I would have made the same mistake. So you managed to punish them greatly. So, and
at
yeah,
least,
another thing I've noticed about like as I did recently JP's where he won an RPDL is the team like the really well drafted teams are the ones that are coming out. It's not like obviously there's a lot of skill involved, but the well like drafted, the well rounded teams are the ones that come out on top in this division, and this is exactly one of those. Tailwind, Trick Room, Rain, Metagross, Prankster, like you have it all in this team. Follow Me, Fake Out, Intimidate. It's very
yeah,
well rounded, has matchup against literally everything with no real apparent weaknesses.
I would say this is probably the best team I ever drafted. Even as we like go and check out my other teams, which I imagine we'll get to here in a minute.
Yeah,
But
very
even
soon.
after, even after like all those other teams, like this is like the team that I think is the best one I ever made. And something that I noticed is like this was not the team I drafted. This was like for Bones that got drafted here,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of these like were made through trades. So like I
Yeah.
picked up Chandelure and Oranguru partway through the season. Um, I think I picked up Seismitoad partway through the season. I know I said earlier that he was a draft pick. I'm pretty sure I picked him partway through the season. Um, and it just like made a really big difference. Like, and that's kind of something I've learned about myself with a lot of my teams is that I'm actually not the best drafter. Like I'll make picks, but it'll really take me some time to like learn my team and like
Mm-hmm.
figure out like, oh hey, like I have Kyogre but no Rain Sweeper, and I also don't have a ground type. So let me go get Seismitoad because it's the best fit for the team. Like I have to learn these things about my team before before I can really like I guess have it be like what you would say the best drafted or like a
Yeah,
well
which
drafted team.
trades are extremely important for creating these solid teams. And any team that doesn't make trades, I think, is doing something wrong because you can
Yeah.
always make your team better. Like, even if you think you have like a great drafted team, it doesn't hurt to look at the tier list. Like, that's one of the biggest things I tell people. It's like, yeah, like I went, so I was going undefeated into like week 7 or 8 or something, and I'm still looking at trades because that
Hmm.
is where drafts can be win or lost. And that's
Yeah.
where you can win good games in playoffs or get to playoffs. So,
Yeah.
very much so look at trades. Even if you're going 8-0 or 0-8, like
No,
it's a very
I
important
com-
part.
I completely agree with that. The one last thing I will say about this season, then we can move on because don't want to stay stuck too long. But this season, Dylan and I joined this league together, and that was like a very important part. Like both of us, competing together, like against each other, whatnot, was very important because I would say that like this could have been either of our seasons. Dylan was doing a really good job. He was basically doing the same thing I was. Like he was just like fucking up everyone else that was in this division, just like I was. And he like his only loss was against me, and then we ended up meeting in grand finals versus each other. And that was just like that's a really special set to me because it was me versus my best friend in grand finals of a draft league that we both signed up for together. And yeah, it was a game three, well played set on both of our behalves. I think that I ended up just like was able to counterplay a little bit more of what he had. We both had matchup experience against each other at that point, and I had made a couple trades to really help myself for the future matchup against him. And yeah, that was just like this season is like it really holds a special place in my heart because it really just felt like me and Dylan versus the RPDL. Both of us trying to make a name for ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like we both were able to do just that. But this really could have been Dylan's season, just like how it ended up becoming mine. It was this close for sure.
Yeah, that was really cool. I actually watched that final. I was in the VC. Dylan was streaming it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah, it
cool.
was. But
All
yeah, this
right.
this was a
The
this
good
was a
old
fun
phone stream
season.
that was too. Phone streams are great.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along, shall we? So from the first season you played to the second one, and this
hmm
time you have a Magirna, and many have regarded Magirna as the best mythical in this game, and yeah, I would say you did pretty well with it.
Yeah.
Just okay.
So this was funny because at this point in the RPDL, like everyone was talking about how Magirna was just this broken mythical, but from like my research, and past RPDL seasons and the RPDL season I competed in, like nobody had ever done anything with the Pokemon. Like nobody had ever like won with it or anything. And so I was like, how is this Pokemon not winning? Like in theory, it's so broken that it just like should be winning like every single season. And so the minute I was like, I was a top three pick for this one because both of the Callies got picked first, and then I was like, all right, I'm getting this fucking thing because I know it's busted. Um, and so yeah, that was just like that was where I started, with Magirna here, and yeah, kind of like this team really panned out to be an interesting one for sure. This was another team that was kind of really built by the trades I made. Like I did not start this season with Moltres Galar, with Rotom Heat, or with Palkia, and those were all trades I made partway through the season to help me out. Um, and again, like they all came in and put in tremendous amounts of work. So, but yeah, I mean, Magirna, its kill to death ratio was 36-5. So if like that tells you anything,
It's quite good.
yeah, very, very solid, I would say. Yeah, 36-5. That was her stat record under my toolage. And yeah, I have fond memories of this season too, which was, they saw that I did well in Pearl and are like, all right, we're gonna move you up to Diamond just because that feels like the next logical step. And yeah, this was like I got Magirna, and I was here to do it again. Basically, I was here to like try to win again because my goal was to win in Pearl and then in Diamond and then the top division, which was Platinum. That was like my goal, what I wanted, and yeah, just like built the team around Magirna. Like I got redirection for it in Tangela. I got screens for it in Morgrim, Shadow Tag with Goth, and just like other max options with Dragapult and Azumarill. And eventually, the original restricted I had paired with this was Yevatol, and I was like, okay, like Yevatol and Magirna are probably very good together. But as I used the Yevatol, I just wasn't as satisfied with it, and decided to just get a better uh, mythic or restricted. And yeah, this is how the fabled Palkia Magirna synergy came to be. Was
Hmm.
because of this season, and the work that those two put in together.
Yeah,
But
Palkia is a nice another Trick Room setter mostly, and I guess
mm-hmm.
Water Dragon is a great typing. So yeah, I can see those two being real nice. Did you draft
Hmm.
the Dragapult, or was that? Uh,
No, the Dragapult was a part of the original draft.
okay.
I originally had Silvally on this team because I was like, okay, I want to explode next to Dragapult and I want to explode next to Magirna, so that those are like things that obviously feel like they would probably be good, but it just didn't end up working out that way. But
Hmm.
Dragapult was another really good part of this team too. It's just a fantastic Pokemon, even in Draft League, where it often gets labeled as being kind of bad. It's actually just like it's really good.
Yeah,
Very
it's
strong
really
and fast.
versatile. Can do basically anything you need it to do. Like if it needs to be your
Hmm.
main damage dealer, it can do that. If you need it to do support, it can do that. If you need it to bait people, it definitely can bait people.
Yeah,
So
and there were just like so many good Pokemon that just like put in a lot of work on this team. Like Moltres and Rotom were like late season additions, but they both like played really important roles in playoff games. And this was another season where um, Dylan and I were competing together, and it felt like we were kind of on top of this division too. But this time there was another one that was thrown into the mix, which is Dale. Dale was also in this season. This season was really funny, as if anyone remembers this, because Dale and I were both undefeated in the regular season. We were both 8-0, which was just like kind of unheard to have two coaches who are both undefeated going into playoffs. Um, and yeah, it was really cool. We ended up both, making our way to finals where we played um, in a finals match, and again, that was another really close set. So yeah, Dale and I both had phenomenal seasons, and Dylan had a good season that season too. Um, but yeah, Magirna just proved to be too strong for any of them.
as expected, it's the best typing in the game. It's really strong, really good ability, bulky, everything you need it to do. It does.
Supremely, supremely good Pokemon. Yeah, I would say it's the best Max Pokemon in the game. Like, you just can't get better than that.
It's a steel
But
type.
yeah,
Maxing steel type, I approve. Anything with max steel spike, I'm game for. All right, so that
yeah,
was the last RPDL season ever, if I recall correctly,
it was.
because
Yep,
that's whenever it shifted to be SCDA. And you played the first season of Repeat for that, right?
I did. I played in the first season of Repeat and Premiere that season, and
Oh, and
my
you got
Repeat
first
season
round pick in that Repeat one. That's what that's from.
that was the Zacian pick, and I was along with OC Frey, one of two coaches who, really like made Zacian look really good, and y'all Zacian crowned, and y'all really had to, investigate
Because I remember
that
Zacian was
Pokemon.
banned in RPDL. And then we
Yeah,
decided
it
to let
was.
it happen. And it finished second and in semifinals.
Mm,
So, yeah, that was a little bit of a mistake. But it didn't win, so we don't get to show that team. But
unfortunately,
so
not.
you took
But
the next repeat season off.
yes, I
And then
did.
you didn't win Premier that season, so you said, all right, I'm coming back to repeat to win. And you did. So
Yep.
I know there's a funny story attached to how the Gigas Wheezing came about, which I think a lot of people know. But why don't you talk about this team, as it's kind of wild.
Yeah, this has been my most controversial team. I'll definitely say that much. This team it had a lot of stuff happen with this one, but yeah, this team, I don't really know how the fuck I'm supposed to describe this team because it's really just so bizarre. Um, Essentially, I got sniped on every single pick. They put me as the very last pick of the draft. I was the very end of the snake draft, and so you know, I got sniped out of everything. They took Cali Shadow, they took Kyogre, they took Groudon, they took Celesteela, they took Magirna. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my god, like they didn't leave me anything. Um, but a Pokemon I had my eye on for a minute was Eternatus. I think that, Eternatus is a very slept on Mon. I think it has a lot that it can offer. in terms of like, being fast and strong and bulky, good moves, and not really good support, but on its own, it's a very powerful threat that needs to be managed. And so I was just like, all right, fuck it, we'll go with Eternatus. And my original draft, I had Genesect,
Mm-hmm.
and that Pokemon ended up not really being what I wanted. But
Yeah.
and so with that kind of that, you get placed at the end of the draft, you really get a chance to just like build with cores, and that's exactly what I did. I was just like, all right, these little 1-2 punches, we're just gonna pick them up, and that ended up being what happened. I picked up Rain with Pelipper and Barraskewda, which Barraskewda was like very cheap for some reason. I don't know why he was so cheap, but
Because he wasn't picked ever. I think you may have been the
well,
first one to pick it.
well, he was cheap and he was good. And then I ended up going my original draft. I did like Coco and Raichu Alola, which turns out Raichu kind of sucks, and I needed points for Regigigas because I was making the picks, and eventually it got down to it. And I was like, okay, I have some points left. I'm gonna pick Regigigas and Coughing. And so me being the very kind and good person that I am, left my picks with the draft site so that I could help keep the draft moving and not stalling, because stalling the draft is cringe. And if you stall the draft, you are the worst. Sorry about that.
I should have
And
zoomed
but
in
then
on your face more. I don't think it was
but
enough.
but when I woke up, Regigigas had been taken, but it was my turn to pick again. And I was like, oh, well, why did it not just pick Coughing? Because I left Coughing. And that was because a specific individual had taken Coughing uh, before I had made my picks, middle of the night. And I woke up to no Coughing, but still picked Regigigas. And so I was just like, all right, whatever. Um, Asked the mods to remove my Regigigas pick. Picked up a couple of mons that I actually didn't really end up using at all, um, like Bronzong and stuff. And you know, the team, like, it was okay, but then I decided like I didn't have a good Dynamax threat that I really wanted, and so I was like, okay, we're just gonna find a way to get Regigigas. And this specific individual who had sniped Coughing was taunting me about it. He was like, "Oh, do you want to trade for Coughing? I'll trade it for." Like, he was like just being kind of a weirdo about it,
Yeah.
and because I wasn't trying to give him that power dynamic, I was like, "All right, fuck this guy. I'm gonna drop Raichu and get the points to pick up regular old Weezing." And that's exactly what I did. I made the Regigigas Weezing pickup, and it was legit. Those two were really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
I would not consider myself to be a very good Regigigas Weezing player, but Regigigas and Weezing is very user friendly. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's one of the most talked about, I think, cores for these Dynamax metas because people see it as being one dimensional, and it's like, yes, it is, but at the same time, the results are there. Like, I'm not one to
yeah,
argue with results. Like, I don't care if something's one dimensional. If it's good, I'm going to pick it. And you did
yeah,
that same thing. You were like, yep, Gigas is a good Dynamax. This team doesn't really have too many Dynamax targets. And yeah, that makes perfect sense.
yeah. And eventually, I got tired of using Genesect, and Melmetal was the only other available
Which is
mythical.
so weird.
And so I was like, okay, like nobody picked up Melmetal, so I'm just gonna, make a couple trades, figure out how to do a little nerd work, a little mental math to get Melmetal on my team. And yeah, he made his way on there. Immediately fixed the Trick Room problem I had with this team.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very fast and people like bringing Trick Room, but Melmetal is very slow. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he came in, fixed that problem. But overall, like, this team was just cores the team. Like, you look at it, like the Rain core worked like to perfection with Barraskewda and Pelipper. Um, Coco Thievel was extremely good for me
Yeah, we'll
throughout.
we'll talk about that core a little bit later on.
Yeah, Gigas Weezing ended up being really good. A lot of people had to really respect that, so it ended up being a very powerful uh, duo. And then I just had a couple of like glue pieces. Like Coco is very versatile. He can fit with multiple of the cores. Um, and kind of similar with Barraskewda, because of how fast he is naturally, I could like use him on game plans that didn't even include his rain core stuff, just because of how strong he was on his own. Um, and it really felt that way. He was just very useful. He was like one of those Pokemon where you could just like plug him into a
Hmm.
different core and he just kind of worked, which ended up being very cool. It felt cool to be the guy who pilots Barraskewda in a meaningful way that he's never gotten to see before. And kind of similar with Eternatus too. Like Eternatus was the biggest one where I could
Hmm.
just like bring Eternatus with every single one of my cores and he would work. Like Eternatus with Rain, sure, why not? Eternatus with Coco Thievel, yeah, it probably works. Eternatus with Gigas Wheezing out the back, yeah, he does the job. Like
Yeah, it was really good,
Etern-
like as a compliment to a lot of your cores because it didn't require really anything else. It was just standalone good. And when you have a team
Mhm.
that's like, all right, I have a duo that I want to lead with. What's in the back? Because if one dies, then if I have a duo in the back, then it gets weird. Eternatus is its
Yeah,
own partner. It's like, all right, thanks, good job, team. I'll take it from here. And
yep,
Eternatus
he
did
was
that real well. And
he
then
was super
your
good at that.
Melmetal use was kind of similar because you didn't really have a trigger mode in this team. I don't see Lunatone. It's in the
It's
middle.
not real.
It's not.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's not
real. Yeah.
real. So like you brought a bulkier Melmetal each week because you knew that was how your game plan is. It's like, yeah, my game plan is my duo and then Eternatus Melmetal, and that
Something
is
like
a
that.
very good team combination to say the least. And with the Assault Vest Melmetal, which you brought, I want to say
Uh,
99% of the
It was
time.
every time. Every
Yeah,
time
I
I
was gonna
brought
say
metal, it had
99
the.
was my guess, but yeah, you made it just an insanely bulky Pokemon that also had insane damage output. So yeah, it worked
Hmm.
out quite well for you. Scorch and Lunatone didn't quite do what you
Oh no!
probably wanted to
Oh
do.
no! No, no, no! Centiskorch.
Oh God.
Centiskorch was godlike. Um, so the only team that beat me throughout this season was Mr. Garden Hose, who, I talked about this in my playoff match versus him. He beat me like fair and fair. Like even though I got the unlucky para, or that he got the unlucky para on me, like he still beat me fair and square. And so, like when I had to play against him in playoffs, I knew I needed a little bit of a different idea. And the last time I had prepped for Garden Hose, I was working with my partner, who I build with sometimes, my prep partner, Nick. You guys know him. He helps me out with team
Hmm.
building sometimes. And when I was building the team, I said I want to bring Scorch versus Garden Hose, and he was like, "No, Scorch is bad. Like, bring your good
I
Pokemon
see
instead." And then
exactly him saying that too.
yeah, the good Pokemon they got fucked up, and so in the rematch, I knew I wanted Scorch because he was really good versus Garden's team, and I knew he was. So with my good friend Dylan, who is very good at promoting the creative uh, thought flow with me, we were able to build a Scorch team that actually worked versus him. And yeah, like I was super nervous going up against Garden Hose again, but because I had Scorch this time, it actually paid off in a huge way to have it. So Scorch was just as important of a part of this team as anyone, except for Lunatone,
See, that
because
was the only one I didn't watch because you played during my work shift. So
yeah, I'll have to put that VOD on YouTube at some point because that's just like
that VOD's
the
probably
Senti
gone at this point.
I save all my VODs because
Ah,
I'm gonna
okay.
put them on YouTube as much as I can. But yeah, that was like the Senti Scorch showcase right there, which was just like really cool. I was glad to
Mm-hmm.
make that Pokemon look godlike
All
too.
right, let's get
Um,
to the part that I think we both want to talk about. So, the Finals MVP. If somebody would take a guess at who the Finals MVP was without watching the final, I want to know what they would guess.
yeah, leave your guess in the comments below of
Yes.
this
If
of
you
this
didn't watch it, if you did watch
review.
it, then don't. Like if you watched his
But
final game, don't answer that. But if you didn't, take your guess of what was the Finals MVP. I'll give you a hint. It's on the screen. I'm trying to steal the show from the real thing, if you know what I mean.
No, it was 100% Thievul. Thievul was godlike in that final set. Um, when people think of Thievul, you got your unburdened prankster dark type support, and Tapu Koko is pretty good at activating that unburden because Thievul really likes having the defense boost. That's what you think of. Your Thievul's going to support the
And
team, knock.
then what week was it that you brought off the first time? What week did you fight
So
Lilac?
well, I guess the first time I brought Thievul was versus Niels in week 3, but that was the support Thievul
Yeah,
next to
the one that you
Dynamax
typically
Coco.
see. Yeah.
But in week 6, I believe, of the regular season, I played against Lilac, and I was having a lot of trouble prepping for her team because I didn't like exactly know what to do. And this genius sitting above me right here recommended weakness policy Thievul, and I was like, oh, how are we gonna proc it? Like maybe U turn Coco.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
wasn't I
exactly
like
what
looking
happened.
for a move, or was it just like U turn was
We
there? Were we?
we looked at weak fairy type moves because Coco
Ah,
doesn't really get fairy moves, but then we were like, oh, it has disarming voice. But we were, I was like, Coco is going to get outsped by a Scarf Kyogre, and that's just not going to be very good. So I don't want to be Scarf locked into disarming voice.
yeah.
But there was another move where Coco could activate the weakness policy, pivot out of battle, and bring in Eternatus, who really appreciated being next to a Dynamax weakness policy uh, Thievul. And it was just one of those things that like worked to perfection.
I
Like
don't know if she
Lilac
noticed the there was no proc. I
didn't.
watched her
Yeah,
part whenever you brought it out because I wanted to see like her or hear her reaction to it
she didn't
because
notice.
yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah.
And that's actually if you would have played this on Showdown, I bet you she would have noticed.
Oh yeah, because
It
it
wouldn't have had a
like makes a
boost.
bigger
Yeah.
deal. But yeah, the she like when I watched her POV of the stream, which we appreciate all of our SCDA content creators. Thank
Yes.
you everyone who does that. Never not give y'all love. But yeah, that was like one of those things where she like just didn't even notice that the electric seed hadn't been procced, and so she went to fake out the Thievul, thinking that it was the dark type support Thievul set, and she was wrong. She faked out the Thievul, who got big, and then proceeded to start clicking Dynamax moves against her whole team.
Yeah, that was great. What sucked was the Metagross was Assault Vest because it KO'd every other Metagross.
Uh, yeah,
uh,
there was nothing done about that, but she brought the one bit of prep that she needed to, not even knowing that she had to prep for weakness policy Thievul.
I told you it would win you a game, and it did.
It definitely did, yeah. And then in finals, I did use Electric Seed Thievul, but because of how good I saw Max Darkness was into the matchup, I figured that by getting big with Thievul, I could defensively max in a way that was also offensively um, important for the rest of the team members. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so maxing Thievul keeps Thievul alive, and it also like makes it so Tapu Koko and Eternatus can kill things by lowering special defense with Max Darkness.
Which
So
was super like good. Like so, I was actually listening to this because I was working when you played. You got to stop playing when I'm working.
blame Hawaii, man.
But I had a headphone in listening to your stream because it was a finals. I wanted to hear it, and hearing your like plan with the Thievel and like watching it play out because your team lost to Beware. I can't believe that you had a team that lost to Beware, but Thievel giving that minus special defense for Coco to mop it up was super solid. And honestly,
Yeah.
nothing on this team, like other than that combination, could beat it,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
crazy to think
He
about.
yeah he ended up bringing a very different team than I was ready for, but ultimately Thievul just didn't give a fuck, and he was ready for
And
everything
having
that.
access to Grass Knot against a Seismitoad. So, like,
Yeah.
Thievel had it all for you that set. It was amazing. Like, I dubbed
Yeah.
you the master of the Thievel.
Yeah, I appreciate that title. It'll definitely be one of my more iconic Mons, but that's really what this season felt like to me. It was like I was seeing all of these Pokemon who I thought had a lot of potential to be way better than what they had been showcased as. and I really felt like I was able to use them in ways that made them uh, look better than they had previously been used, and that's like that's like a goal of anyone who wants to compete in draft league is like make the mons they want to look
Mm-hmm.
good, and that's why to me this, despite the fact that I really have special memories attached with the other two leagues, I felt like this was one of my more important league wins because it just like to me it felt like I was solidifying myself as like a really high level draft league player.
Mm-hmm.
And um, at the end of the day, the only person you really have to prove to anyone is yourself. So like that's all I was trying to do is just prove to myself that I was still, a champion level player, still
Mm-hmm.
someone who could win a league. And yeah, it's a real privilege to have been able to win and compete in the SCDA all of these seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are, and arguably the most difficult season yet, with a whole bunch of champions that I'll be getting to compete against, and there's going to be a lot of us. So
Yep,
um,
there will be.
I would
Let's head to
definitely,
this main screen.
I'll just say one last thing. I definitely recommend, from Spades' channel, if you guys are new to Draft League, um, or just like interested in draft league, this will be a season to keep up with. This will be a format to keep up with. So be sure to join the Discord server,
Mm-hmm.
which Spades should put a link for in the description of this
I
video,
should.
and join the server and follow all of our content creators to keep a part of this because this is going to be a really special
Mm-hmm.
season. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm really
As
excited
much
to put
as
one more.
any match I can play on Wi-Fi for this division, I will, because it's
Mm-hmm,
easier to make content for it that way.
mm-hmm.
I will definitely be doing a lot more on my end for it. I don't know how your schedule will be, but as this is going to be my only project for this season, I'm going to put
Mm-hmm.
everything I have into it. So I don't know what you're doing, but anyways, I have the
Yeah.
last question for you.
All right.
You're
Let's hear it.
entering a division with just people with that funny little red ball icon. How does it make you feel to play in this like invitational, prestigious division in this era of SCDA, APDL, RPDL, ADL, APL, UB?
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole server merger stuff into this server now. How does it feel to be part of that elite group and compete against that group?
It's an honor. I mean, I've been invited to leagues before, off of my notoriety, from competing in this league, and it really, to me, like this one feels the most meaningful because this was like where I started. Like this was where I got my humble beginnings from, as a draft league player, and it feels really like important to be a part of this division because like this is going to be our last division for Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really want to make sure that this one ends up being really special. And so I'm honored to be a part of this, to be like a part of this project and, to be participating in this season because, it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm going to look to win it all so I can have the most Cherish balls in the server. So
We do need to decide what the winner does get because they need something fancier.
something more than Zach's Cherish ball
Yeah,
logo
Zach's.
or
Well, they won't use it most of them probably won't use it. They'll probably have it, but they probably won't use it.
mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, well, I
yeah,
guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really cool thing to be a part of. So
and
I'm
keep
hoping
up
that we.
with. You got. Are you ready for the amount of content for this? Are you
Oh,
ready?
I'm ready. You don't have to ask me that. You're talking to the guy who made power rankings for 3 divisions weekly at
Yeah,
one
that
point.
was
So
absurd.
so
Uh,
yeah, I'm extremely excited for this and to be a
mm-hmm.
part of this, make content for this.
Yep.
Like this is
Less than
this is
1
like a
month
dream.
away.
Get excited, folks.
I can't wait.
This is gonna be it. And you best believe I'm doing my research on my picks and putting a team together so that I can win again.
All right. Well, so from that, we'll close out the interview. Do you got any final words other than the ones about threatening everybody?
No, I appreciate I know that many people who will be watching this interview are SCDA folks, and I just wanted to say I appreciate the community that the SCDA is, and I appreciate the fact that I've been able to be a part of this community and have had the impact that I've had on it. And for everyone who supports my personal endeavors within the community, I also appreciate that too. So I'm doing this not only for myself, but for everyone who's ever had my back, everyone who's ever team built for me, everyone who's ever defended me against cringe allegations. I'm doing this for all of y'all. Like I'm here to win
As
this,
a
and
favor, just let me win.
we'll see. Probably,
Oh man. Alrighty.
but
Well, this will be the last interview. Well, it's not the last one I'm doing, but it's the last one you'll see. So with that,
mhm.
if you watched all the interviews, thank you so much. These were all a ton of fun to make. Every single one of them. I can't thank my guests any more than I already have. I literally send all of them thank you, like, and tell them thank you like 3 or 4 times. These are just something that I really enjoy doing, which is talking one on one with people I've, typed on a keyboard to, but I hate that. I'm not somebody
Mhm.
who enjoys texting, and I don't like emailing either. I actually go to people and talk to them. I don't email. I hate that.
Mhm.
So being able to do this and you being the first one I'm doing with the face cam is so much better because I can actually see you,
Yeah, the
which is
face cam
awesome.
is
But
it's
I'm
it's
not I'm
really
not pressuring anybody who doesn't feel comfortable to use face cam. Don't see that as that. But it is really nice to be able to like actually see you and talk to you for the first time. Like we've chatted before, but this one is much more special. So thank you
Mhm.
so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's really cool that you're spearheading this Cherish division, and like I've told you, I'll do whatever I can to help. But this is like this is your thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to just be along for the ride. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really special. It's really special what you're doing here. So I know you'll keep up the hard work in making this a format to remember. Um,
That's the
yeah,
goal. Alrighty. Well, again, thank you all for watching the last one. And this is myself, Spades, my guest, Solanor, and we are out.
join the server.
Like, subscribe to him, not me.